Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Ahl Bayt Live on Ahl Bayt TV with myself, Rebecca Masterton. My guest is Sayyid Zafar Abbas, and tonight we're going to be discussing the occultation of the Imam of our time. May Allah hasten his reappearance, and especially, of course, because of it being the month of Sha'ban and the birth of the Imam of our time. And it never hurts to have a refresher of reflecting on, again, the signs and also how the philosophy of the Ghaiba, which we're going to be looking at, and also how can we prepare. So we will be, inshallah, first of all, in this part of the program, looking at a little bit of an analysis of the signs, and do feel free to call in with any questions or comments. And thank you again for being our guest. So in this part of the program, we're looking at analysing the signs of the end of times. This seems to be quite difficult, something that people talk about a lot, and there are constant, we could say, discussions on, well, perhaps this is a sign or perhaps that's a sign. How can we avoid perhaps making misinterpretations, and is the average believer qualified to interpret the signs?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi tahirin. I think first of all, after offering felicitations on this holy occasion to yourself and to all the believers around the world, it is important to remember that after everything else, it is a sign. It's not a definitive proof that the Imam is coming. It's a sign. And so a sign means it might be what will result in the Imam coming, but it might not be. Also, what is important with regards to signs, particularly those signs which are very general, is that they may happen more than once.
Right.
For example, one of the signs of the Dhuhr is the destruction of the city of Baghdad. Now, over the, 1,000 odd years that the city of Baghdad has existed, it has been destroyed multiple times by multiple kingdoms, and then it's been reconstructed, and then it's been destroyed again, and it's been reconstructed. And every time it was destructed, people thought this is the time the Imam was coming, and then it would happen again.
Yeah.
So when the sign says it's the destruction of Baghdad is the sign of the coming of the 12th Imam, that means it's the final time that it is going to be destructed, then it's going to happen. So that's one. The other thing is that as with signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in our lives, there's something in the sign for us to reflect upon, for us to think upon, In very famously in Surah Rum, there's about 6 ayat which begin with وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, and amongst his signs are that he's created the days and he's created the colours, and amongst his signs he's created marriage, and he's created the earth and the sun and the moon and various things, and he's given all these reasons. And all of this is about reflection. So if something is there as a sign, it's there for me to reflect upon whether I have put myself in a situation where if the Imam was to reappear tomorrow or today, would I be on the right side?
Yeah.
Would I be prepared to be on the side that he expects me to, or the side that I'm claiming that I should be on? So that's another. So number one is that the sign is not a definitive with regards to the coming of the Imam. And number two is that it's a chance and a moment and an opportunity for reflection. And number three is that there's a very clear hadith that has been mentioned by the Shia narrators regarding the fixing of the time.
Right, yeah.
And Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam was a kadhab al-waqatun, the people who determine the time, determine the coming of the Imam, and they say precisely this is where he's going to come, are liars.
Yeah.
So that means that even with all the signs, there's no precision. It's not necessary. It's not as if we've got this checklist or we're ticking off every time a sign happens.
Yeah.
Say, okay, now there's only one left, and then that's it. Then the Imam's coming. So this is one. However, having said all of that, the signs are not. It's not as if they don't have any value. There is a purpose. There is a reasoning behind them, and that is to reflect on preparation. It is to shift the responsibility onto ourselves.
Right.
And that is to say that yes, the belief in the Qa'im, the belief in the Mahdi, the belief in the Saviour that's going to come at the end of times is a belief of hope, and hope is very important in religion of Islam. It's haram to lose hope, so hope is very important. But at the same time, we are expected to act, to be those people who are doing active intidar, not just passive intidar. You know, afdalul a'mal intidarul faraj. The best action is to do intidar, but not passive intidar, not okay, we're just waiting for him to come and then he was going to come and solve all the problems. No, it's active intidar of, am I making myself ready for what is going to come? So once these signs are coming, then we know it's close. We know that this is, and it's a moment for us to reflect on our own state and say, are we ready to, when the Imam Salawatullah alayhi comes, to be on that, you know, and what will we present to him? What will we do? What will we offer? What is the value that we're going to give as a follower? And that should be the strive, and that should push us, each and every one of us, towards excellence. Because the Imam expects no less from us.
Yeah, I think also, I think, you know, reminding ourselves, discussing it is also important, because there are so many other messages coming from the society that, you know, people can begin to lose sight of this issue, in a sense. Yeah, there's a narration here which is, again, quite interesting in Al-Kafi, in volume 8, which says, well, clarifies that as the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his holy progeny, was sent as a mercy, the role of the last Imam is to be sent as an avenger. And perhaps, you know, that could be elaborated upon. And then there's this narration by Imam Sadiq alayhi salam where it says, any time one of you has the desire to see Al-Qa'im, then you should desire that while you are in a good spiritual state, since surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Muhammad as a mercy, but will send Al-Qa'im as an avenger.
If we examine these narrations about avenge and revenge and what the Imam is talking about here, we will find that if we will have to go back to what is the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for people. So He sent the Holy Prophet of Islam, and with the Holy Prophet of Islam sent the Sharia and the way to live. And at the completion of the religion of Islam was marked on the day of Qadir with the announcement of Wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. But and we usually stop here and we say Nara Haidari and we say Salawat, and that's the completion of religion. But in actual fact, this is the beginning.
Yeah.
This is the unfinished business. The announcement of Ghadir is just an announcement. It has not been realized. Its reality of what Ghadir really is, we don't know, because it's never realized. After the Holy Prophet of Islam, the reality of Ghadir is not realized. So, how do we know what is the system? What was Ghadir all about?
Yeah.
Up until now, and the celebration that we have, and the talk that we have of Ghadir is only about the announcement, about what happened when the Holy Prophet of Islam said what he said.
Good point.
But what is its realization? So, for that, there's a hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, where he says that one of the reasons why the ghaiba will be so prolonged, or he's asked, I believe, the narrator asks him, why would the ghaiba be so prolonged? So Imam says the ghaiba will be so prolonged so as to allow every person and every system that human beings have created to be tested.
Right.
And then once they're all tested, then the Imam will reappear, so that nobody can say that if we had established our system, we would have given justice.
Okay, thank you. We've just got a caller coming in. We've just got 5 minutes before we go to break. We'll just take the call. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. I'm sorry, my English is not very good. First of all, I would like to thank Al Bayt TV for bringing such a good and informative program. I have a small question. In fact, it's not a small question, but it is for myself, for my spiritual being. It's a very, very important one. Why Imam Khomeini is called as Imam Khomeini and Rahbar Khamenei? Why not he is also called and named as Imam Khamenei? What is the difference between the two? And another thing is this: why none of the 12 Imam, like Imam Khomeini Rahmatullah alayhi, Imam Khomeini al-Azam, they have never, I have not gone through anything that they tried to establish wilayat faqih. Although even, Imam Hassan al-Islam, he just surrendered, or he just gave in, or he just threw it away. So he had all the chance, and Imam Ali at the third Khilafat, he was given the chance and he just declined it. So why none of the other Imam Hassan al-Islam, he never tried to get the government and to establish this system? What is it? Is this something new, or they just failed?
Okay, thank you very much. And I think we have to go to break right now. So inshallah, after the break, we will answer the question. Inshallah. Thank you very much. See you in a few minutes. Oh, I've just been told there's 3 minutes left, so we can answer the question.
Right. I will answer the second question. The first question is not really related to our discussion. What you call somebody is down to your own preferences, and so with regards to what Imam Hassan alayhi salam did, there's a program that we were part of on this channel, and I believe it's been uploaded to YouTube, about Imam Hassan alayhi salam,
Right.
in which we've discussed that area in detail.
Okay.
So it was not surrender, and it was not giving in, and it was not all that, and that's been explained there. I don't think it's we need to go into the details of that at the moment. With regards to why Imam Salamullah alayhi did not establish the government, it is fairly clear for anyone who examines the history of the Imams in their respective times, that they were not in any kind of situation to even publicly announce their leadership, let alone to rise and create governments and so on and so forth. Shias in every era of the Imam alayhi salam's life. There's some notable exceptions, some part of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam's life, but apart from that, under most Imam alayhi salam, the objective of the Imams was to protect their lives and the lives of their followers and of the religion as a whole. And in an attempt to try and establish the government, that would have led to severe losses of life and possibly not achieved the goals and the aspirations that were necessary because of the situation of the times. And for that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept, as I mentioned, the event of Ghadir as the promise of Imam Zaman Faraj Sharif to realize that system of justice after every system has been has transpired. With regards to the other issues, as I say, it's not directly related to our area here, so I will excuse myself from answering this.
Thank you. So, for anyone who wants to learn more about Imam Hassan alayhi salam, his policy, they can just go to YouTube.
The YouTube channel for Ahlul Bayt TV, and it should be on there.
Thank you very much, and we're going to go to break. Inshallah, we'll see you in a few minutes. And welcome back to Ahlul Bayt Live on Ahlul Bayt TV. In this part of the program, we're just going to be looking at the philosophy of the Imams, the Imam of our time, may Allah hasten his reappearance, the philosophy of his occultation, the philosophy of him being in concealment. And of course, there are many programs on this, but again, it's timely that during this month we are reminding ourselves, and there's always actually something new that we can reflect on. There's always another point that we can think about with regard to this, especially when people in this day and age, they're still asking, what is the point of the occultation? There are people who have obviously grown up within the Shi'i tradition and still not quite clear about the philosophy behind it. So there again are a few interesting narrations. There's one saying, well, it's not a narration, it includes a narration, it's a statement including a narration, where it says, testifying to the existence and bearing the occultation is one of the tests of the true believers and is a means by which the true faithful are sifted from those who lack understanding. And Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam said, certainly this rule of Al-Mahdi will not come to you until after you have despaired. No, by Allah, in order that you may be differentiated from one another. And there are quite a few narrations I've noticed that talk about the very severe nature of the sifting of the Shia, or of the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt. That there are these very severe tests of the heart, tests of belief, and that there will be many who will be shattered. There will be they're quite almost disturbing narrations. Like Imam Baqir alayhi salam says that people will come to lose their faith like kohl is wiped from the eye when you put it on, you don't notice that it's gone. So is this, I guess maybe it's important to realize this period of occultation, it's not just that, well, the world is so bad and we're not ready, but also that this is actually a time of the testing of the hearts of the Shia.
Without a doubt, what is mentioned in the narrations about the end of time regarding Iman are really frightening narrations. As you said, like the kohl disappears from the eye, for example. But also, for example, there's a hadith from Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, where he says that there will come upon you a time where a person will be a believer in the morning and there will be a kafir, a disbeliever at night. and there will be a disbeliever, or there will be a believer at night, and then following morning there will be a disbeliever. The transformation will be so quick, and sudden death will come upon you. A person who's healthy in the evening will die in the morning, and a person who's healthy in the morning will die by the evening. And upon you is the obligation to remain in a state of purity, so that when the death comes upon you, so on and so forth. But also the most harrowing narration, I guess, is from one of the Ma'sumin alayhi salam, which says that there will come upon you a time where it will be easy for a person to have burning coal on their hands.
Right.
But it will be difficult for them to save their iman. And that in such a time, when people will die and they will go in their graves, and the angels will see the souls coming towards them, when they see a believer, they will exclaim to one another, "There's a believer coming."
Wow.
And that's how rare a believer will become. So this is all part of the Amr. And in fact, if you look at the narrations which talk about the Imam Salawatullah alayhi, it's always referred to Hadha al-Amr, this command or this matter. And for that, Amir al-Mu'minin salam says in the narration, "Inna amrana sa'bun muta'assibun." Not only is it difficult, it's very difficult, and nobody can bear it except for Nabi al-Mursal wal-Malik al-Muqarrab wal-Mu'minu imtahana al-qalbu bi-imanihi. Nobody will be able to bear it apart from a messenger or an angel or a believer whose heart has been tested. So no doubt that it's not going to be an easy ride. It will be difficult, and it is getting difficult, and we can, to a certain extent, see that in our lives, compared to maybe a decade ago, earlier than that. The challenge to faith as a whole is very real. There's a real sense that people of faith generally have been put onto the defensive. They're not saying their gender anymore. That they're being mocked and ridiculed and so on and so forth. This is all in the past, and we've discussed these things before. But what that tells us is that we can see that real transformation, from what was the case 10 years ago, or maybe earlier than that, to what the case is now, and it's very different, and the challenges are increasing. So that is definitely what the Imam Salawatullah alayhi says, but also that is an indication of what's going to transpire afterwards. That if the Imams are talking about this difficulty of faith and the protection of faith, and how you're going to be tested and tested again, and how this matter is so difficult, that means that what is to come is going to be difficult. This is why we're putting you through these things, so that we can find out who will be able to bear what's going to happen then. To that end, there's a hadith of the Holy Prophet of Islam which he mentions on the day of the victory of Mecca, where he says Islam was once a stranger, and there will come a time where it will become a stranger again. So salam be upon the strange ones. And so his companions say, "Ya Rasulullah, we know about when it was strange. We know about the time in Mecca where it was difficult and there was only a few of us, and people saw it to be strange, and we were gharib, and so on and so forth. But what about this time that it will become strange again?" And he says, yes, it will. In the end of time, it will become strange again, because people who believe or who allege to be Muslims, when they encounter this Islam, it will be unrecognizable to them. And therefore, Islam will be strange to them, even though they're Muslims. So that gives us an insight into what, how important this matter and this challenge really is. So what the Imams are telling us about, and what they're giving us, maybe that's an answer to that earlier question of why the Imams didn't rise, because when we talk about I'm sure everybody watching is familiar with this magic 313 number that we always refer to, and I guess maybe that's the answer to that Imam Salawatullah alayhi, all of them didn't rise. They didn't establish any system of government and rise against the oppressor, because there weren't the people there who were ready to accept that system of justice. When Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam becomes the Khalifa, and he puts out the very famous, he puts out the candle, and they ask him, why did you put out the candle? And he says, this was burning from the money of which belongs to the Muslims, and you told me that you've come here to meet me for a personal matter. So this was Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam's sense of justice, and of course any Imam would have come after that would have established the same sense of justice. And this is why it will be so difficult, because we have grown accustomed to and become complacent with injustice. And injustice, when we talk about justice and injustice, we think of all these grand things of courts and legal systems and people dying, but it's not. You don't have to go all that way up. Injustice in this meaning, in its very basic meaning, is وَضَعُ الشَّيْءَ عَلَى مَكَانِهِ. Justice is to place things where they belong. So if something is not in the right place, i.e. if resources are not distributed correctly, i.e. if people are not receiving what they deserve and what their rights are, and their rights are being trampled upon, whether economically or socially or politically, this is all injustice. And we've grown accustomed to that, because we in this part of the world are living fairly comfortable lives. We've become complacent to that injustice. And Imam Salawatullah alayhi will expect us to be concerned with that injustice as well. And not only to be concerned, but to do something about it. And that would mean that our comfortable lives would be affected. And so this is the crux of what is being referred to in this whole difficult matter, and it's going to be, people are going to be tested. This is what it means. It doesn't mean in the conventional sense of okay, we're going to be tested because this difficulty is going to happen to you. No, but it's this whole mindset and attitude and way of how we approach life which will be tested. And that is what the Imam Salawatullah alayhi will bring, and that's the message of the Ghadir system, that the Ghadir system wanted to establish justice in the world. And because it was not established, because people did not accept it, therefore there was no justice in this world. Straight after the Holy Prophet of Islam, there was injustice, and then since then till today, injustice has continued in some shape or form, whether we're affected by it or not.
I think also looking at Imam Ali alayhi salam's time, when he finally did become Khalifa, it's a great example of how, and even as it says in Quran, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and holy progeny, he couldn't force anyone to believe. And this is kind of like a principle, his role was to convey the message, but he didn't have the power to compel anyone to believe. And this was the situation with Imam Ali alayhi salam as well, that when he did have that time, there was so much disarray, because people actually didn't respect him. His own followers didn't respect him. They didn't listen to him. They didn't obey him. And I think this is clear in Nahj al-Balagha, where you see his frustration. It's like, look, if you just follow me, listen to me, we can defeat the oppressors, and we can tidy this matter up and just get on with our lives. But they were always constant, no, let's do this, no, let's do that. So and that's under a living Imam. So, and obviously at the time immediately after the Holy Prophet, let alone the time we're living in now, where it has been a long time. And talking about the rarity of the believers, there's also this interesting narration, and for anyone who again is interested in quite comprehensive narrations on the signs and of the coming of the Imam, you can refer to the book that is translated by Salim Bimji, which is Delving into the Light. That's part of the title, Delving into the Light. And so here we have the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and his holy progeny, saying, by him who has sent me down as the bearer of good news, certainly those who are steadfast in their belief in him during his occultation are dearer than red sulfur, al-kibrit al-ahmar. This demonstrates that being steadfast in belief is by no means something to be taken lightly. So the true believers are very rare, and of course this also kind of goes against other narrations that talk about the majority as an example.
The Holy Quran always praises those true believers and mentions that they have always been in the minority, and we see that in previous times as well. It's not by no means a unique phenomenon. Even in the time of previous prophets, it only used to be a handful of people who used to believe, and then the punishment would come down and they would be destroyed. And in that regard, we see that this issue of ghaiba, or the issue of prolonged absence, is not something that's unique to our Imam Salamullah alayh. There's a few narrations Sheikh Saduq mentions about the reasons behind the ghaiba. So one narration, very short one, he says that somebody asks Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, and the Imam says, La budda li khulamin min ghaiba. Without doubt, this son of mine, the Qa'im, will be in ghaiba. Faqila lahu, and he's asked, Walima ya Rasulullah, for what reason, for why would this be happening? Yakhaf al-qatl, the fear of being killed. And then the next narration actually expounds on this. This one is also again from Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, and he says, Inna fi al-Qa'im sanatam min Yusuf. The Qa'im has a characteristic which is similar to that of Yusuf alayhi salam, and of course this story is very well known, that Yusuf alayhi salam was threatened to be killed by his brothers, and he was put in the well, and when he was in the well, then he was taken to Egypt. When he's taken to Egypt, of course, and then he's put into prison, and then the whole story that happens, which is well known. When there's the famine, which affects Palestine as well, which is where Yaqub and the rest of the brothers are, and they hear that in Egypt they have the supply, so they go there, and the brothers come and they don't recognize Yusuf. So the Imam says that, what was that? Yusuf was there, but he was in ghaiba to his brothers. They saw him, they met him, they spoke to him, they took the supplies from him, but they didn't recognize him. So he says this is the same as the case with the Qa'im, that people will see him and they will speak to him and they will meet with him, but they won't recognize him. So the ghaiba is not that we can't see him. The ghaiba is that we don't recognize him. We don't. So it's and in that sense, it's this recognition is not. It's the physical recognition, but that is because we don't have real recognition. We don't have recognition in the sense of knowing the Imam Salamullah alayhi and who is he and is our responsibility towards him, and that's why we don't recognize him. So it's the recognition of, yes, I recognize him as this is the Imam, but also I recognize what his rights over me are, what I owe him, what is he to me, what am I to him. all of this I have to recognize. And so that's why the Imam gives this example of Yusuf alayhi salam. But again, to maintain the caution with regards to this matter, I'm going to mention one more hadith. Again, this one is from this one is also from Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, where he says that remember that the matter of إن وجه الحكمة في ذلك لا ينكشف إلا بعد ظهوره, that the wisdom behind the ghaiba, behind this matter, will not be revealed until after the reappearance. كما لا ينكشف, and he says how, and what is this similar to this? كما لا ينكشف وجه الحكمة لما أتى الخضر من خلق السفينة وقتل الغلام وإقامة الجدار لموسى إلا وقت افترقهما. So just like Khidr did not tell Musa about why he put up the wall and killed the son and damaged the ship and all the actions that he didn't tell him until the matter was finished. So similarly, the real wisdom behind the ghaib will not be revealed until after he reappears. And then he says, يا ابن الفضل إن هذا الأمر أمر من الله والسر من سر الله. So this matter is from amongst the commands and the matters of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and one of the secrets from amongst the secrets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وغيب من غيب الله. ومتى علمنا أنه حكيم صدقنا بأن الأفعاله كلها حكمة وإن كان وجهه غير منكشف لنا. So, and you have to know that everything that he does has a wisdom behind it, even if we don't know, even if it is not revealed and it is not made apparent to us. So that this final narration gives us the indication that there are many reasons, but the real wisdom behind it will not be made clear to us until after he reappears, and that any explanation that we offer is, of course, a way to try and understand. But this is why I said we have to maintain the caution that I can't say this is the reason why the Imam is in ghaiba and that's it, this is the definitive. That is not possible. The Imam said that the real reason, the real wisdom behind it will only be revealed after he comes back. So anything that you come up with will be a reason, will be a possibility of why he's in ghaiba, but not the wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends, and that will only be revealed afterwards. So, however, saying all of that, it is an opportunity, it is a chance. Many of our scholars would point towards this and say that this is a chance for believers to work on their spiritual development. If the Imam came today and he asked you to fight, or he asked you to do something, or he expected something from you and you were not able to deliver, then straight away you would have lost all your faith. But if he comes 10 years later and you've worked on your spiritual development up until that point, then at least you have a chance of being saved. So it is a chance, it is an opportunity to work on that spiritual development, and that ghaiba should be seen from that point of view, should be seen as a blessing. It should be seen as, this is a blessing for me that I've been given this opportunity to work on my spiritual development, until the Imam Salamullah alayhi comes. I've been given this respite so that I can work on that spiritual development, rather than to think of it as being separated from the Imam. And that if, I'll share a little anecdote here from my my last trip to Iraq, and we were with a group and we went to visit Samahat Sayyid Sistani, Hafidhullah, And one of the brothers in the group said to me, can you ask the Sayyid to pray that I get a chance to meet the Imam? So I conveyed his question or his request to Samahat Sayyid, and he smiled and he said to me, I'm going to pray that he joins the Imam when he reappears, because that is a better prayer for him. And of course I related that back to the brother afterwards. But when he said that to me, I thought to myself that really it is much more of a blessing for me to become, or have for someone to pray for me to be worthy enough to be from amongst the companions of the Imam, rather than wanting to meet the Imam. So I should be working, or my goal should be making myself a person whom the Imam will pick when he reappears, rather than saying I want to meet the Imam, because meeting the Imam is not necessarily a guarantee or a sign that I'm going to be saved. But if I've made myself worthy of being part of his government, of being part of what he will do after he reappears, then that is much more beneficial, and that's much more better for my life, dunya and akhirah, than to meet the Imam. So, you know, I reflected on that answer. Of course, it was not for me, but I reflected on that answer from Samahat Sayyid to think that, you know, what should our priorities be? What should I be praying for? You know, and really, this should be the only prayer, because everything else is attached to that. That, you know, I'm praying for his reappearance. You know, the hadith is very well known. Pray for my reappearance because it's in your benefit, the Imam says. That, you know, if I'm praying for that, then everything else, all the desires I have, will be fulfilled. I don't have to list out every single thing that I want prayed for, because that is our greatest, all-encompassing prayer.
I was thinking, and I think I mentioned it before, but I remember reflecting even a couple of years ago about how people do pray to be close, you know, to the Imam or be part of his army, and naturally have that desire. But then, you know, I was reflecting on, well, am I the type of person that he would want, you know, to be as a part of that, or to be in his company? And I think that's, you know, something that can make us reflect, because naturally everyone will claim, of course I want to be with the Imam. But then to turn it around and say, but would he want to be with me, is the issue, where actually you start then on, you know, the struggle of the self, you know, the jihad al-nafs, and to think about whether, you know, what the Imam of our time actually would like our company, or would feel bothered, you know, and harassed and upset by our company. And we don't want to be those type of people who are going to agitate, well, not agitate, but upset and cause discomfort to the Imam of our time. So anyway, we're just going to go to break again, and inshallah in the next part of the program we'll be looking at how we can prepare for the Imam. And I know, again, this is a very this is a discussion that happens often, but again we'll be looking at it from a perspective of some detailed analysis of hadith. So see you inshallah in a few minutes. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to Ahlul Bayt Live on Ahlul Bayt TV, and in this part of the program we're going to be discussing how can we prepare for the Imam. And again, as a reminder, really so many of the narrations are talking about just how difficult the times are going to be for those who are trying to remain steadfast in their Iman. And there is actually a beautiful narration here with regard to intidar or anticipating the return of the Imam, that it is actually an act of ibadah, it's an act of worship, and as the sources say, a sign of being one of the true followers. And then we have a narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam who says, one who dies anticipating this rule of the Imam of our time alayhi salam is as one who will be with Al-Qa'im in his tent. Not only that, but he possesses the rank of one who fought with a sword in the presence of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and his holy progeny. So actually, Sayyidina, and intidhar, waiting, anticipating the Imam is not, I mean, as you said earlier, it's not just something passive. And again, this is something that gets mentioned quite often. But what is interesting as well is that it is something that's so important that one who, as it says, dies anticipating it in a state of, I suppose, readiness and eagerness for it to happen, will have the rank of one who was actually with the Imam.
There's many narrations to that effect, but what that shows, and I think that if we take examples of awaiting or waiting for something in our own lives, then we will truly find in our own lives, depending on our own interests, that when we are anticipating something that we truly desire and we truly really want, then we are very active in terms of that anticipation, and we're doing everything in order to make sure we achieve that. So that is the meaning of intidar here, rather than just as we mentioned, passive awaiting. But also it is a reminder that the challenge will be, it will not be just from one particular angle, it will not just be from one particular area that you can say, okay, this is my challenge. No, you will be surrounded by challenges. It's almost like you're in the water and you're surrounded by the sharks, and there's no way out. So you have to, the challenge for that person, believer, with the sharks all around, is to stay firm and to save themselves from that attack. And that's a really truly great challenge, because it's a challenge from all around. It's a challenge from an external challenge, it's an internal challenge, it's a challenge within oneself, it's a challenge with the people around oneself, it's a challenge from people whom we traditionally think as enemies, it's a challenge from people we think as friends, from family, from within and from without. So that means that vigilance is very important, because it can go so quickly, it can go very easily, it can go, Iman is very, it will disappear in a moment. So to be vigilant in terms of those challenges is very important. And of course, the way that Iblis, or the way that Shaitan will attack people will be different for different people. So some people will be attacked in the bab of Iman, of belief, of what they believe in, and they will have doubts about what they believe. They will become unsure of whether it's a reality or not. And some people will have doubts in their actions, in a'mal. Some people have doubts in other things. So, the attacks will be from all sides. For that, there's a hadith which mentions that when there come a time where the time of ghaib will become so prolonged that people who believe in him will begin to doubt his existence, and they will say, so much has happened, all these people have died, and still the Imam's not coming, so maybe they're right, there is no Imam, and maybe this is not real. And when it gets to that point, that's when he will reappear. To find out, as we mentioned in that narration before, to find out that who is the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah.
And so the most important thing in awaiting and the most important thing in preparation is to pray for the safety and the security of one's iman, of one's faith.
Yeah.
Is that it is not a achievement to believe. It's not an achievement to be a believer. And the achievement is to safeguard and protect that belief up until the person dies, up until the Imam reappears. You know, so for example, we mentioned after Fajr, do Dua Ahad for 40 days. And what the 40 days means is that so that you become regular in reciting that Dua. And that Dua really tells me as a person who's reciting it that this is what I am waiting for. This is what I need to be preparing for. This is what I am anticipating. That, you know, around my neck I've put this ahad. This is a promise, a covenant that I've put around my neck, the allegiance to you, that I will unquestioningly, you know, without any doubt and without any, you know, unconditionally pledge allegiance to you, because you're going to come and establish justice on this world, and because you know, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. This is a verse of the Holy Quran which is mentioned in the dua, that because mischief and fasad has appeared on the earth, في البر والبحر, on the land and on the sea, بما كسبت أيدي الناس, for what people did with their own hands.
Yeah.
And maybe in a past time, people may have wondered, how is fasad going to emerge in the seas? But now we can see it in front of our own eyes.
True.
Of how fasad is on land and on sea, and even in air now. That all of this has spread throughout the earth. And the important thing is that people will then try and blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, blame God and say, well, what is God doing? This is what people did with their own hands. It is not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who made you do this particular thing. No, people have done it with their own hands, that they have created this mischief on earth, and that's the reason for the injustice that we're seeing in front of us. So this is, all of this means that the most key, most paramount thing for us to do in terms of preparation is to protect our faith, is to make sure that our faith is continually renewed in this time where these things will become more and more challenging every day. You know, sometimes people will say, well, why do we repeat the same things over and over again? Why do we talk about these things again and again? This is important, you know, because the Quran says the reminder benefits the believers, but also because Iman is becoming challenging. Those things that maybe we took for granted in the past are no longer things you can take for granted anymore. Because as days go on, Iman becomes difficult. Iman becomes challenging. It becomes challenging for a person to protect and defend and to make sure that they stay steadfast on that Iman. So it's imperative for us to you know, as the Imam says, Ahya amrana, you know, renew our matter and our affair. Rahimallahu man ahya amrana. Mercy be Allah be on the person who renews our amr and our faith, because they're telling the people about what we Ahlul Bayt were all about. And the key message from that, from the Ghadir system to the Imam Salamullahi alayhi, and for every Imam who came in between, is the key message is that of justice. is that we're trying to establish this justice, and if I can establish it in my life, in my family, in my day-to-day practices, then automatically it will be easy for me to accept justice on this higher scale. If I have not accepted it on this micro scale, then I will not be able to accept it on the scale that the Imam Sallallahu Alaihi will establish. So that is the key in terms of trying to prepare and accept a person for the Imam Sallallahu Alaihi, is to make sure that we have these gatherings, we remember the Imam Sallallahu Alaihi, and we remember and we take pride that we are not left in darkness. We're not left without anybody to command. We're not left with anybody to know. We believe in an Imam who's alive, who's reappear, who cares for us. This is one of the greatest things of our madhab, of the school of Ahlul Bayt, because we believe in an Imam who individually, each and every single one of us, he's concerned about us. And he knows us, and he knows what is best for us, and he wants the best for us. And that in itself should be a source of pride for everybody who believes in the Imam Sallallahu Alaihi, that he wants what is best for me individually. So every single individual, he wants the best for them.
Thank you. There's also this interesting narration here where again, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, "You'll be afflicted with an obscure matter that will leave you with no sign to indicate the solution, nor a leader to guide the way. None shall be saved from it except the one who recites the supplication of the drowning person." And that is, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, wa Absari, Thabbat Qalbi ala Dinik. So, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, the turner of hearts, and I suppose the one who opens the heart, make my heart firm upon your deen. So there are actually kind of recommended things to do in this time to strengthen the Iman.
Definitely, obviously this prayer, which is very well known. Also the prayer of, as I say, Dua Ahad, and all the du'as which are associated with our Holy Imam, Dua Nutba, and other such du'as, the du'as of the safety of the Imam, Dua Faraj, are all there to constantly give us this reminder that the Imam is there, and that we have to protect our faith.
Thank you. We've just got a caller on the line now. We'll take the call. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Rebecca. This is Imran. And my salam to Sayyid Zafar Abbas.
Assalamu rahmatullah.
Just wanted to ask you to expand upon one particular notion. When Banu Abbas offered caliphate to our sixth Imam, he had refused on the grounds that it was acquired through bloodshed and injustice. And I'd like you to explain the title of the 12th Imam as an avenger. In what sense will that be? Will it be, will the battle, we talk about the Armageddon, will it be after he's established his government, his authority on earth, and in order to protect the rights of the underprivileged? Or will it be, will he establish it as a consequence of the battle? The two different things, you could kindly explain that.
Thank you very much for your call.
Thank you. It's a very good question. As far as I am aware, the notion of establishing the government will also, of course, there will be opposition to it, and therefore there will be fighting. But in terms of as mentioned, with regards to the injustice that has been previously done to Ahlul Bayt, when the Imam Sallallahu Alaihi will establish the government, then he will reopen, if you like, the cases of injustice done towards Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and one by one it will be dealt with, starting from the injustice after the Holy Prophet of Islam, all the way up to the injustice that was done right through to the birth of our 12th Holy Imam, and all the injustice that was done in between, and that is really, this is why as I previously said about the establishment of justice at the most basic level, that wada shay ala makanihi, putting things in their actual and correct place, and that is what the Imam Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam will do in terms of establishing justice. So really, it's going to be, I guess the answer to the question is that it's going to be both. That yes, there will be opposition to the Imam when he reappears, but the real avenge, if you like, will take place once the system is set up, because all those who have been responsible will be tried, and it will be they will be put through the justice system. So they will get the chance to present what they did and why they did that, and then as a result of, they will be given the punishment in accordance with the laws and that will really demonstrate to us what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to do with the announcement of Ghadir. You know, I keep coming back to this because this is really key, that had this been accepted by the people as a whole after the Holy Prophet of Islam, then this is what would have happened to people who went against the laws of the religion of Islam and went against and committed injustices and committed wrongdoing. And really what this system, or what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will demonstrate through this and through the Imam, is that if you had allowed this system to operate, then you would have seen that there would have been justice in your life, and there would have been justice in society, and that would have been a better life for everyone. And there would not be this undue and unjust privilege that certain people received, even though they committed major wrongdoing, even though they committed injustice in their life, and people who against whom the injustice was done, their rights were trampled upon, and no one was there to care for them. And that if this system had been established in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desired for it to be established, then that would never have occurred. So that is, I guess, the last chance to demonstrate that this is the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted the world to adopt. And so we left you with a respite to try all your systems, and now we're coming with this system to show you how it's done. And for that, of course, in terms of punishment and eternal punishment and eternal reward, that is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the day of judgment, and what will happen later on. But what the purpose, and some, so some may question the value or the reasoning behind doing this, or if there's going to be reward and punishment in the hereafter, what is the need for it to do it? The need for it in the dunya is to show that what Allah, Allah is going to demonstrate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desired to do on the first day with this announcement of Ghadir. It's going to show the power of what this announcement was all about. It is why it's such a grand day, why it's such a grand Eid, because it is the realization of justice on this earth, and to show that yes, it is possible, and it was possible for there to be justice in this world if injustice has not been done after the Holy Prophet of Islam. And so all of that summarily is really a realization that the best is yet to come, but in order to appreciate that, I have to continually work on trying to become the best as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And also, just in the last approximately 3 minutes, there's another useful narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. That's in Bihar al-Anwar, where he says, a person who recites Surah Bani Israel, Surah 17, every Thursday night will not die unless he sees the Qa'im and becomes one of his companions. And I guess when he's obviously saying Thursday night, that's the Thursday night in the Islamic sense.
Yes, so the night between Thursday and Friday.
Right, okay, the night between Thursday and Friday, yeah. So it's been kind of adjusted to fit in with the current idea of the night, or the Western idea of, the night. So, okay, so the night of Thursday going into Friday, yeah. So this is, again, is a recommended practice. And again, actually, as you were saying earlier, I mean, it doesn't just say will not die unless he sees the Qa'im, but it also says and becomes one of his companions as well. So that's, I guess, a practical endeavor that people could aim for. Inshallah. Okay, thank you very much. And I think perhaps we have maybe a couple of minutes left. We've got 3 minutes. So what are the other kind of couple of recommendations for? I mean, there's something that again the scholar Henri Corbin said, which I always find quite interesting, where he says that if the Imam of our time is hidden, if we can't see the Imam of our time, it's because we have hidden him from ourselves, and that actually, in order for us to see him, we have to have an inner state that, in a sense, corresponds with his state, that is, you know, is of a sufficient level of, we could say, purification to be able to see him.
The example that the Imam gave of Yusuf alayhi salam, that he was there and his brothers didn't recognize him. So why did they not recognize him? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not allow them to recognize him, even though they were brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, from the point of view of the brothers, who of course were ordinary people, you can see, you know, they had left their brother in the well, sold him off into slavery.
Yeah.
They could not even in their wildest dreams have imagined that he's going to become the emperor.
Yeah.
So for them it was difficult to even have imagined that. And maybe the test for followers of the Imam will be that the Imam will appear or be or you know, will live or will associate with people whom we would not imagine the Imam to associate with, or he will look like someone who would not associate the Imam to look like. And that means that we, you know, our mind should be clear and open when we're talking about the Imam. And that, from the lesson of the stories of the brothers of Yusuf, is that they didn't imagine that he would be the emperor. Or maybe we don't imagine the Imam to be X or Z. He has to have this kind of characteristic, or he has to be wearing this, or he has to associate with this kind of people. But maybe he will not do any of those things. So that is the key. That you have to realize that Imam Salamullah alayhi might be very different to what we might have imagined him to be.
That's a good point. Thank you very much. Excellent point on which to conclude. And thank you very much to our callers for calling in with your questions. And inshallah, we'll see you again very soon.
Ahlul Bayt TV, the holy household for every household.